Hey everyone, it's the Mike Rogers Show. Mike Rogers here with you. And today I have a very special guest coming from sunny Southern California, the Jeremiah Show, the host of the Jeremiah Show. This is a show that tears open the hospitality curtain, exploring food, fashion, drinks, trends, music, the business, people, and the vibe that make up our exciting world. Won't you welcome with me, Mr. Jeremiah Higgins? Yay!
Yay, yay. As Tim Stack says, yay me.
Yay me, yay me. Who's Tim Stack?
Tim Stack is one of our, we produce a couple shows here at the Jeremiah Show, and TV's Tim Stack. He's a comedian, an actor, writer in Hollywood. Really funny guy. He used to do a Howard Stern show, actually.
Is Howard Stern still on the air?
Yeah, he is. Howard Stern show.
That's cool.
Yeah, Tim Stack, he actually, Howard Stern's first television show he produced was Son of the Beach. Do you remember that? And Tim Stack was the writer and the star. It was like a spoof on Baywatch.
I don't know what either of those are. I think I've heard of Baywatch, but I'm not sure what it is.
Well,
I've been living here a long time, Jeremiah.
Like, I know,
almost 40.
Yay,
40
you!
years.
Thank you, Mike, for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
I never get invited anywhere. This is so special.
Really? You get invited all the time, right?
Well, to be on your show is an honor. So thank you.
So, okay. So can you introduce yourself to us? Tell us what you do and everything.
Yeah. So, wow, there's a lot there, but let me talk about first. I'll talk about radio, which is my real love, my real passion.
Mm-hmm.
That all started with AM radio. Up in Alaska. We used to have no television, so I had this little radio car that my grandmother sent me with two dials as on the wheels, to tune in and volume. And I didn't want to go to bed, so I'd put it under my pillow and I'd listen to NPR way into the night, insomniac, even as a kid. So that I fell in love with radio and the spoken word, and then of course, discovered music and all the great radio shows out there, but never really thought I would have a career in it. And I went to USC film school. I thought I'd be in the film business, and I was for a while. Worked for Alex Kittman, who is the Oscar-winning producer of Platoon.
I know that movie.
Yeah, and we won an Oscar. Wall Street.
You won an Oscar?
No, I didn't. Well, okay, yes, I did. No, I did not. No, Alex Kittman, the producer, won an Oscar. So I worked for him for 3 years, and at a film school, USC film school, and down in Los Angeles, and I waited tables, and like everybody, in film business does.
Right.
I read scripts, and I would, I'd give a go or a pass. I don't know why I got that opportunity as an intern for Alex, but I was telling him to pass on everything because it all sucked, I thought. But I mean, who am I to pass on anything? But and I waited tables, and I so in the restaurant business in Los Angeles and Santa Monica, and eventually just got better and better at that. And so for 30 years or so.
Wait a minute, you got better and better at what? Reading scripts or waiting tables?
Waiting tables. No, and then I went into management, and then when I was with Alex, though, we did The Weight of Water with Sean Penn. We did a Claire Danes movie, Broke Down Palace.
I know that movie.
Yeah. So I was there 3 years, and then got sucked into the restaurant business as I moved up. And I started running and operating restaurants in Southern California. And then I opened up my own little shop, and I opened restaurants for other people and hotels and nightclubs. So I've been doing that. That's my day job. Well, somewhere along the way, I met a gentleman named Les Carroll, who manages this radio station that I broadcast from in Santa Barbara. And Les would sell advertising to, I would advertise for the restaurants
Mhm.
on the radio station. So one day I said, "Hey, Les, I want to start a podcast. Can I just use your radio equipment? I've always
Mhm.
wanted to do something in radio." And he said, "Give me a pitch for a radio show."
Mhm.
And he pointed to the stack on his desk, stack of pitches, or so he told me.
Mhm.
Could have been a stack of invoices, maybe. But he said, "This is the pile you get. I'll accept 1-2 shows this year." Anyway, the rest is history. I pitched him a restaurant show, which
Mhm.
you read kind of the tagline there. What it's turned into, though, is a music show.
Mhm.
So what I say now is it's pop culture, music icons, and food gods. And I work with a lot of television stations, like Bravo TV and NBC and HBO Max and all them. And we bring on the musicians from The Voice. We bring on top chefs from the TV show Top Chef. It's just been a lot of fun. And so going back to the 10-year-old boy who used to listen to radio under his pillow at night, I can't believe that I get to be on the Mike Rogers Show. And
No, this is going down. This is just before the graveyard, my friend.
Yeah, right.
So wait. So first of all, I want to ask you about being a waiter, because I was a waiter.
Yeah.
Or two. My very first job, well, kind of my second job, I was a waiter.
And were you any good?
No, I got fired.
You got fired?
Yeah, I can't even remember what happened, but I had already gotten a better job at Sears department store. So I didn't care. But yeah, being a waiter was what I kind of thought was a very strange job, because we had a boss named Norma, and we would serve these like salads, and the lettuce would be white. And the customers would complain, they'd complain to me and then call Norma over, and Norma would start arguing with the customers. She was the boss. She would start arguing with the customers, and she'd say stuff like, and the customer would say like, "Well, if I gave you white money, would you accept it?" and she said, "Well, if I could spend white money, I would spend it." So the customers got mad.
So the customer's always right. She didn't hear that.
No. And no. I think after I left, and probably because I left, the restaurant went bankrupt.
Because you left it. That's probably the reason. So that sounds like the plate. They were serving iceberg lettuce with probably honey mustard and a lot of ranch, right?
I don't even remember what the dressings and things were, because it was kind of like it wasn't really a smorgasbord, but they only served chicken steak, and chocolate cake. That's what they served. That's all you could order. And everything else was kind of like what do you say? Smorgasbord.
Well, you're from this area, right, Mike? Originally?
Yeah, I'm from Ventura.
Ventura, yeah.
And it was a restaurant called Big Greenhouse. So tell us some weird story about when you were a waiter. I want to know.
Okay, but I want to ask you this, because I just actually had one of these last night. Do you still have nightmares from waiting tables? Do you ever have those where you wake up and you forgot something at a table and it's busy?
Yeah, sometimes. Because the restaurant, the nightmares I have mostly are because the restaurant I worked at was haunted. And
is this the big yellow house?
Big greenhouse.
The greenhouse, but they had white lettuce.
Yeah. So wait, you've heard of the Big Greenhouse?
No, I've heard of the big yellow house.
It was a big restaurant at one time.
So it was actually haunted.
It was. The second floor had this hallway, and there was like 5 or 6 doors, but they all led to the same room. They all were just doors. I guess they had walls in there and they took them out. And a lot of busboys and waiters would quit because they would see something weird on the second floor. I never saw anything. I never saw anything. Because probably because I wasn't stealing customers' drinks, but
or smoking up there.
Yeah.
Smoking something. Well, it's interesting you say that. I worked for a restaurant that was the oldest operating laundry in Southern California, and then the owners of the restaurant bought it, and it was called the Enterprise Fish Company. And at night, late at night, I would shut down. I'd shut all the lights off, and then you know how when you put a seashell up near your ear, you can hear the ocean,
yeah,
the waves,
that
crashing.
Yeah.
Well, this restaurant was like that. I could hear. It was like the movie The Shining, and that old hotel up on the hill. I could hear people laughing still in glasses. I'm not kidding. It was the weirdest thing, and I thought, this restaurant's like one of those seashells. It's had so many people dining over the years.
Dying or dining?
Dining. Actually, a couple people did die on my shifts as a manager, but that's a whole other story.
Wow.
They had heart attacks at the restaurant. It was good food though.
Okay, so you're a waiter, and then somehow you wound up moving into the movie business. How did that happen?
I met the director. Well, I always loved movies. That was always my first love, and storytelling. And I dreamed of, when I was a kid, when you remember when you were like 5, I dreamed of moving to London. And I always wanted to be a writer, and I imagined that I would always wear a suit every day as a little kid. And I just, movies are just my thing. I just love great movies and watching movies. And so one day I was in the restaurant business waiting tables, and it was a really tough day. And there was a People magazine or an Us magazine on this table at the end of the day, and I picked it up. And I said, all right, I'm not doing restaurants anymore. I'm going to go into the movie business. And I went to college for 4 years. And then
did everybody around you laugh at you?
Yeah. And said that's a terrible business and you'll never make it, and all those things that people tell you to encourage you. But did really well. I was never a good. I graduated high school with a 1.6 GPA.
That's pretty good, Jeremiah.
What's that?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was a high achiever. But when I decided I set my sight on entertainment, I went to school and I got a 3.9. So it wasn't, I did a whole different turnaround. I was on the dean's list. And it was just something I really loved. And, I lived in LA for a long time, but I think when you're young like that, you don't know the path to take. So you take the path that's paying the bills,
right? And
you leave your dreams behind. One thing I love about what we do, Mike, in the radio, is that, you're great. You've got great shows, great music, and you interview some of the best indie artists around the world. But you get to play their music, you get to meet these creative types, and you help tell their story, right? And I think that's really great entertainment that people just love to hear interesting and meet interesting people through your show. And I think that's what's, to me, it's exciting. It's entertainment still. Maybe it's not film, but it's, I get to meet these icons as well, these people that I admire. And then I get to, create soundscapes with their music and with their music, and, bring in sound bites. And it feels like sometimes a little mini production, almost like we're building little mini movies.
So now you did movies for 3 years, and then you talked to this radio station boss, and he said, give me an idea. And you worked hard on that idea, didn't you?
I did. And I don't know if I worked on the idea that I pitched him, because, and sometimes I feel like he gives me a little look in the eye, like, what was the show you said you were going to put on air? But
wait,
I moved more towards music.
I've got the perfect comeback for that when he says, what was the idea of the show you said you were going to put on air? You say,
the one you read.
Yeah, well, no, you have to understand that a radio show is a living thing, and it evolves and changes to get better and better and better. So the only thing that's important is today's show is better than yesterday's.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. I'm borrowing that.
Go ahead.
I hope he never watches this.
So
yeah, no, that's finger on the pulse, right? That's what we're doing.
That's right. So how did you go from movies to when did you go from movies to doing your podcast?
Yeah, you asked me that. I got off track. So I went from working for Alex for 3 years, and then full-time restaurants for the next 20 or so. But what got me into it, what excited me, I saw that People magazine. I decided that's what I wanted to do. And I got to know the director, Andy Davis, who directed The Fugitive. You saw that movie, The Fugitive?
Yes.
He's a local Santa Barbara guy, and he was at the restaurant all the time. So between Andy Davis and the Us magazine or People magazine, that's how I got into, I went after film. Then a lot of restaurants. And so I've built restaurants pretty much all over the world. We're working on a boutique hotel in Cabo San Lucas, and I have to have you down there as a guest when we open. Hope you'll say yes and come out. But it's a great hotel in downtown Cabo. So I still work on building nightclubs and restaurants and hotels, but I'm moving more towards radio as my medium, as the thing I love to do. I just love this.
So you've been doing the podcast for how long now?
Since 2015, and we're at about 540 shows. Nothing like you've got in the can there, Mike. I was looking at your catalog earlier today.
No, I've made really popular radio shows on FM radio and stuff like that, but I will always get canceled 3 years.
Why is that? Is that you, or is it that they're always looking for new programming and
I think it's both, because I'm very hard-headed, and I tell the radio station people, no, we're going to do it like this, we're going to do it like this, do it like this, and basically force them to accept the show. Then the show will get really popular. And then the radio station sales department, like, wow, we've got like these really famous artists that want to be on Mike's show and stuff like that. So can you ask him? They'll ask the planning department, ask him if we can be on his show. And they'll tell me the name of like these, like, top 10 artists. And that's not what we do. And I would tell them no. And then they would get mad. And they would ask me over and over and over. And I would still say no. And then they would cancel my show. They'd give me another show, but I don't think, I mean, I did have one show that lasted for 9 years, but that was only because nobody ever bothered me. But most shows last for 2.5 years or 3 years, and then they're finished.
Does it bother you when they get canceled, or do you like to start over and to start new shows?
Well, it's just frustrating, because they'll replace your show with stuff that is really terrible. Yeah, really terrible. But what you're doing now it's different than like when I started, because you're doing a podcast, right?
It's radio first. So,
yeah, radio first, but
yeah, it's a radio show,
and then it exists on podcast platform,
and then we put it up as a podcast, and as a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so a long time ago, that was unheard of.
Right.
You would make radio shows, and when you were done, it's over. Never to be heard again. But now, and now that you're doing your podcast, and now you're doing your podcast, your radio, your podcast, and your YouTube, you have a place, what's it called? I forget what English, an archive place that show can be there for the next 40 years. And that's really cool.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what I look at the stats, maybe once a week to see where people are listening. And I counted up over 100 countries, and with listeners that are regular and loyal. And I'll put up maybe 3 to 5 shows a week. And there will be, shows that in the episodes and the first digits that people are listening to on those days. They're finding through hashtags or through the artist name or the, whatever they're searching for, and they're finding these shows, and there is a life to these shows long forgotten about they're still breathing and kicking. And it is neat that not only are people listening, I don't ever hear from anybody. I don't know about you, but I think I like that. Sometimes though, I'd love to know, like, my biggest list, my second biggest country in listenership was in Ukraine. And when the war started in Ukraine, it total zero, nobody from Ukraine for 6 months.
Really?
Nobody, nothing. So I thought, did their Wi-Fi go out? Did that get blown out? What happened to all the Ukraine listeners? There were hundreds a week. And then they came back. They started slowly coming back. And then just recently, they're all gone again. So I think about things like that. Like, they're out there listening, and they're experiencing this horrible experience right now and turmoil, but they're finding the show. And I'm so honored by that. And I don't hear from them, but I'm so thankful. And I think about, these small countries that I look at listeners, and you must do this as well, I imagine, where you think, isn't that, you never know who's listening, and maybe one thing they took, and it helped them, or it made them laugh, or they liked the music, they found a new band. I think that's pretty cool about what we do, that it reaches not only radio area, terrestrial radio, but it reaches through the podcast and through YouTube and these platforms. We're able to reach so many people that when you started out in the radio business, like you said, the show's gone, and you maybe got 100-mile radius, right, of the airways, but
yeah, maybe
different world now.
Mm.
Do you remember when the shows started being archived for you? How long were you?
Oh, no.
I'm just curious.
I think 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you've been in the business decades now, right? I don't want to.
Yeah, for like 38 years.
Wow.
And
you're a radio broadcasting legend, Mike.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
You just don't.
I've been fired from every FM station in Tokyo at least once. And one of them has fired me 4 times.
So is Howard Stern, right? Isn't that a badge of
I think
credibility?
I think it's a stinky badge of honor.
Yeah, it is. It's a badge of credibility that you're a disruptor.
So tell us about you do the radio show, and then you repackage that into a podcast, and you're now doing a YouTube. How does that all work?
Well, the radio station records, right? We do a lot. We started using Zoom, which we're using right now, and I think most.
Oh, I love Zoom. It's fantastic. Could never have a problem.
If you don't mind, I love the behind the scenes. It's part of my thing. So I was 20 minutes late because we couldn't get Zoom to work here at the radio station, and Mike is very he's probably blowing steam out his ears that I can't see. But I was late, and that's no. Because of Zoom, though, not because of me.
Yeah. Zoom.
So that's what you're playfully referring to.
Yeah. Well, I don't want Zoom to you never know with this YouTube and stuff like that. Have you seen the terms of use on YouTube?
No, it's like those Apple agreements. You can't read it. You just have to scroll to the end and say, okay, you got me.
Like so many pages. Smoking cigarettes is a strike.
Really?
Yeah. And just lots of stupid stuff like that. So if somebody has a cigarette in their mouth, that's okay. But lighting it, no.
That's interesting.
So I think that might be Japan YouTube might be different than in the West, but I'm not sure.
That's it. Did you read the whole thing?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's smart. I don't think I have the patience. I probably gave away all my rights a long time ago, and I don't know it. But to answer your question, no. So we start. We're in the radio station here right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll flip we're at the boards here.
Oh, I see.
And this is where I do the show. That's recorded though via Zoom, because most people, pre-COVID they wouldn't come in the studio any longer. Right. They couldn't. And so we got into this is a funny story, Mike, if you don't mind.
Okay.
My very first broadcast via Zoom, I hadn't figured it out yet. I don't think any of us had, probably. And I have Danny Trejo, the famous actor, Danny Trejo, Machete, and he's been in so many great films, hundreds and hundreds. He's my first guest on Zoom, and I'm alone. I can't come to the radio station. None of us could come in. So I'm at my office, and I've got no Richard. I've got no sound engineer, Dr.
Oh my God.
No one to help me. And I got Zoom, and I got Danny Trejo, and he's got 15-minute media blocks, right? So he's doing 15-minute segments. And I find he can hear me. I can't hear him. I mean, that way. That's how it works. I couldn't hear him. So I'm trying to figure it out. And my 15 minutes is going down, down, down. I'm down to and I'm like, oh my, I'm sweating. And then I run out my back door, because he gets up to use the bathroom. And I need to use the restroom. So I run out my back door in my office, and it shuts behind me with my keys inside. So now I'm locked out. Danny Trejo's in the other room waiting for me on Zoom. So I kick in my office door. I kick it in like a cop. Get back to Danny. I'm trying to look smooth and do the interview. The building's not on fire. I finally get the sound to work, and the time's up. So he graciously gives me 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, I blew it. This is horrible. I don't know how to use Zoom. I'm not a sound guy. And I get a text from his assistant. He said, Danny has a free spot at 3, and he'll give you a half hour if you want it. And so he comes back, and I'm like, what a gentleman, what a cool guy, because he could see probably I was panicking, I was bummed, and I mean, what a nice guy. So Zoom, we record through Zoom, and then we upload that as a podcast. I get a video file, and if you really are asking me this and wanted to know the answer, I just get an MP3 file, audio file. I upload it to SoundCloud, which I understand you guys don't use that much over there, but then it shoots out to all the podcast sites,
I see. It's set up that way automatically.
Yeah. It RSS feeds out to every podcast site. I'm on, Google, all of those, Spotify. And then I upload the YouTube, and I usually just upload it pretty raw, because I'd rather people listened to the produced. We do really, Richard Dugan does a great job putting in music and sound bites.
Give that man a pay raise.
Yeah, Richard needs money. He likes money. And then that's it. Okay. That's kind of the magic.
So what I'd like to do, I don't know if I told you this. I want to do this interview in 2 parts.
Okay.
And anyways, ladies and gentlemen, podcaster, radio host, TV guy, former movie guy, famous guy in America, Mr. Jeremiah Higgins. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Jeremiah.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. I will miss you, Mike.
Okay. Okay. See you later. Bye.
Thank you.